Today in the shop, we've got an E92 335i. And it's not just any E92, it actually belongs to a buddy of mine who just recently purchased it. And the excitement really ended pretty quickly because he's only owned it for a little bit, and while he was at work, someone tried to steal it. Now, in the process of stealing the car, they broke a window, they messed with a few things. Fortunately, they were unsuccessful, so they didn't actually end up stealing it. They just caused a bunch of damage, and then somehow, the mileage also doubled in the time that they tried to steal a car. The car does run and drive, it drove here, but we're gonna be doing a lot of diagnostics, trying to figure out exactly what went wrong. We do know that, they did pull off some of the things, but I think they thought this car was an N54 car, when in reality, it is a N55 car. Now, the reason I bring that up is my buddy actually sent me pictures and video of exactly what happened, when it happened, and what it looked like. And all this stuff was removed, and they were trying to find the DME in that corner. Now, on N55 cars, the DME is actually attached to the intake manifold itself. So, fortunately, they weren't able to get access to the DME. They weren't able to get access to much else. They pulled down the actual knee cover right underneath the steering column to get access to the CAS module, and they weren't able to really do much with that either. But somehow, in that whole attempt of trying to steal the car, the mileage doubled, they didn't cut any wires, but the speedometer no longer works. And besides that, it does run and drive. So we're gonna do a lot of diagnostics today. Hopefully we can get to the bottom of the mileage stuff. But first I'm gonna show you guys some of the things I'm gonna look and just walk through the whole process with you guys on how I'm gonna figure all of this stuff out. Hopefully we figure it out. Now, since the car is running and driving, we don't really need to mess with under the hood stuff just yet. So we're gonna first figure out exactly what's going on. I'm gonna walk you guys through with me exactly how my thought process is and how we're gonna see exactly what's going on. Now, when it comes to any kind of diag on a vehicle, you always, especially if it's a newer vehicle, always scan the codes first. With BMWs, we have BMW specific software. One of the most basic ones is INPA, I-N-P-A, which works really well on a lot of the E-chassis cars. ISTA is another one that also works. You guys can find installations and all that stuff online, just check on the forums. But that's what we're gonna do first. We're gonna scan the whole car, scan all of the modules, and see what we find. Now, like I said before, this is a 335i 2011, and who has a 335i without this dongle right here? This is an MHD dongle, and it was already in the OBD2 port, which means that this car is likely tuned. What's probably gonna end up happening is I don't think my buddy actually tuned this car. He bought it with the tune on it, and we're probably gonna end up putting a lot of this stuff back to stock as I'm doing diagnostics, as I'm doing a lot of other stuff, just to figure out exactly what's going on. But in the meantime, we've got our INPA cable hooked up. We've got INPA loaded up on the actual computer, and now let's get the car in accessory mode and give it a quick scan. All right. The BMW chime. First, we're gonna scan all of the modules in the car, and we're gonna check if all of the VIN numbers match up. So for that, we're gonna check the user information field on all of the modules. So the main ones that we're actually looking for are the actual CAS module, the DME, the cluster, and then DSC and all that stuff. The main reason we are looking at the DSC as well is because the speedometer is not working. So you can drive it, the RPM gauge works, just the speedometer itself isn't working. So that could be something as simple as just a wheel speed sensor. Usually I believe it is the passenger rear, it might be the driver rear on this car, to double check. But this is an X-Drive car, so that means it's got the transfer case as well. There's something going on with that DSC module. It can also not show the actual speed that the car is traveling at. All right, so looking through a lot of these modules, we do have VIN numbers on mostly everything. There are a couple of modules that don't have a VIN number attached to it at all. One of them is the EKP module. The EKP module is what actually controls the fuel pump. And that one shouldn't really matter too much. The transmission has the VIN number, the DME, which is the ECU for the car. The DSC does not have a VIN number showing up. It's all zeros. So there's our first telltale sign that there's something going on with the DSC module, which is why that speedometer isn't working. Then we've got Combi, KOMBI, which is the actual gauge cluster. That one does have the VIN number on it. The ZBE module does not. Now, with that being said, we do know most of the modules are correct to this vehicle, at least the ones that matter, besides the DSC module, which has all zeros in the field, which means that it doesn't have any VIN number attached to it at all. So now, next step, now that we've checked the VIN numbers, we're actually going to check errors for all of the modules. And this is all found through the INPA. You go to your chassis, you go to functional jobs, and then you just go from there, and that's going to scan all of those modules. Now, I do like using INPA a lot better than ISTA. It's a lot quicker, and it's just a lot more, just quickly you get the information that you need. You don't have to worry about running test plans and all of that. ISTA is nice too, but with the e-chassis car, INPA just is a lot quicker. All right, so now we've got a lot of the stuff pulled up. We've got error codes for the DME, 3 errors in there, the DSC, 6DC4. Now that code is usually coding related, so I think that's where we're actually going to start. Then we do have some more codes for the CCC module, which is going to be the actual entertainment system, the radio and all of that. And then we do have a code in the FRM module as well. FRM modules on the E9X chassis are known to go out, especially when you're doing any kind of coding, programming. They always go out. Even just flashing with MHD and stuff like that, you can have that FRM module go out. But we do have an error code on there. I think first things first, let's tackle that DSC module and see what's going on. So quick and easy thing, whenever you scan codes, to actually see what's actually going on, I always write down all the codes that you found, then you clear everything. Then you cycle the ignition, and then you see what comes back. So things that come back before you even turn the car on likely have issues electrical-wise, whether that's a broken wire somewhere, whether there's something wrong with the module, or if it's just something as simple as missing programming, missing coding, stuff like that. So we're going to clear everything. We only have one code that's still stored that did not clear, and that's on the mask/CCC module. But now what we're going to do is we're going to cycle the ignition. Reading the codes again, and the DSC code is already back. This time it's different. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into the DSC module itself and see what's going on. We can do real-time status, and what that's going to tell us is what sensors are active, what's not working, and stuff like that. And now with this being an X drive, it does have DXC instead of DSC. I just sit inside because I was getting tired of squatting. But with the 6EC5 code, that's usually coding related, so the coding of the module itself. Now that's I'm trying to figure out exactly what's going on here because they didn't really cut any wires. Not entirely sure how that DSC coding got messed up, unless they tried to hook up through the OBD2 port, try to do something to get the car to turn on, maybe even just program a whole nother key. I think that's probably what happened. That's why they broke that window. They came in here, pulled that down, they saw the CAS module and stuff like that, so they were probably just seeing what model of the CAS module is on here. Then they hooked up into the OBD2 port most likely, and then from there they were trying to make a key. In that process, something went wrong, they weren't able to get the key made, and they messed up the DSC module. But in reality, we're never gonna know, because we don't know what the thieves were doing.
Why are you making it seem like you did?
I mean, if it was me, this car would have been gone. I don't quit, I just keep going until we figure it out.
Don't say that.
Why? I ain't no thief. I don't even like the N55 like that. Or the N54 for that matter. So now the next step of my process, because we do know there is some kind of coding related issue, we are going to code the DSC module itself. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to write the VIN number to the actual module and then see exactly what's going on. The mileage is still very worrisome to me, but that's going to be something that we look into a little bit later. The problem is there is no tamper dot on the cluster. So the tamper dot usually happens when either the mileage is not lining up across some of the modules, VIN numbers aren't lining up. You'll get a tamper dot between the mileage and your trip meter. So for example, if you change your cluster, if you changed your DME and your CAS module, which they have to be paired together in order for the car to run, if you change both of those, the VIN numbers don't match up, the mileage doesn't match up, it's going to throw that tamper dot on the cluster. So there's a very high possibility that this cluster might have been replaced at some point. And during this whole process of the thieves trying to get in, doing some coding, whatever they were doing, they caught somehow something got reset, and that's why that mileage jumped up. The first thing I thought when he said the mileage doubled, I was like, man, they probably just switched it to kilometers instead of miles. But that is not the case. I was hoping that would be, because that would be just simple. Just like that, we'll be back to normal. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm going in through the NCS Expert, and we're going to go to the chassis. This is an E92. But when you're doing NCS expert stuff, it's all going to pop up under E89. And then we're going to use the CAS module to do all of the coding because we already verified that the CAS module does have the right VIN number on here. And the car turns on. All right, so we've got the CAS module. So now that we have all of the FA, which is the vehicle order, all of the options that this vehicle came with that are coded into the car, we have all of that loaded up. So what we're going to do now is we're just only going to mess with the DSC, or DXC, I should say. We're only going to mess with that because that's the only module that has coding errors on it. And now we're going to execute the job. It has been coded. Now, just from that alone, the lights have went away on the dash for the traction control and all of that. Damn, I should have got a picture of that before. What am I doing, bro? Now I gotta try to steal it again. Now I gotta replicate the thief to get those lights to come back on. Well, good thing my buddy actually sent me some pictures of how it looked before. So let me save those before I forget. But that's beside the point. The DSC module has been coded. It's got the right VIN number and everything. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cycle the ignition. Okay, so no more lights. Let's double check. We're going to go back to INPA because it's so quick. And then we're going to actually scan the DSC module again and see if there's any code stored in there. All right, so there's no errors there anymore. We're going to cycle the ignition. That's a good question. So Selena asked, how do I know what to do? Now, I'm not factory trained by BMW at all, so I'm not really sure the exact process the dealership would do. I just think about it logically, and this chime is so annoying. But I think about it logically. I think about it, you know, if, I don't know, it's just like I have the systems in my mind, and I'm trying to figure out the one issue that can cause everything first, right? So all those lights, the traction control light, the 4x4 light, all of that stuff, that's all related to that DSC module. So that's why I wanted to tackle that one first, see if we can figure out exactly what's going on with that. Now that we have got that done, and there's no more errors popping up for that, that section is done. So now technically we can go test drive the car, and when we test drive it, the speedometer should be working. If it's not, that means there's another issue with the DSC system, wheel speed sensor, something like that. But we're just going to keep working. We're going to see if we can find the real mileage stored on any of the other modules. Now, when it comes to the mileage stuff, as far as mileage correction and all of that goes, there's a few ways of doing it, and I'm not going to be showing any of that because that can get very sketchy really fast. But I'll tell you how, as far as the overview high-level process. You take out the actual cluster. There's an EEPROM chip on there, and that chip is what stores all of the mileage information. So we're going to virginize the cluster. So when you virginize the cluster, you reset all of the mileage, you set it back to 0. The next thing you would do the same thing for the CAS module. The CAS module is what's actual security system of the car. That's what's checking your key's security key before it lets you turn the car on. And that would also need to be virginized or reset back to 0. And then from there, the DME also has the mileage stored. Now, all of this stuff becomes very tricky if any of those modules have been replaced before from another car without being virginized. Now, the other problem is, though, with the mileage getting bumped up like that, the car, when all the VIN numbers match, it will find whichever module has the highest mileage. And usually, it programs the rest of those modules to that mileage. So if that's the case here, we might kind of actually be screwed to the point where all of the modules think that's 245,248 miles. And if that's the case, I am not going to reset it back to whatever it should be, at least what I'm being told. I do have a picture of the title. On the title, the mileage says 122,000 back in December. So I do have that picture, but we don't know the exact mileage. And if we don't have the exact mileage, I'm not going to reset it. I need to see, okay, I'm checking the status of the DME now to see if there's any mileage stored there. And I guess that's another issue with INPA, is a lot of the stuff is going to be in German. All right, so I actually ended up finding the mileage looking through the actual information memory, which is kind of like a history memory on the CAS module. So there was an error that happened at 195,328 kilometers, and then from there, it jumped up to 394,648 kilometers. It's 245,222 miles. So that's exactly, the mileage before that was 201,176 kilometers, which is 125,000 miles and 125,004 miles. So that is the actual mileage before it jumped up to where it's at right now. So we do have the means to reset everything now and get that back to where it needs to go, all because I have proof. Because otherwise, I mean, just think about it. How would you feel if one day somebody tried to steal your car? You were at 125,000 miles, right? You just hit 125,000 miles. And for me, actually, what I usually do, whenever I have a milestone like that on any of my cars, I am just pulling over, scrambling to take pictures of the gauge cluster. So that's just personally me. If I'm getting a milestone like that, even if it's something odd like 2222222 all the way through, I will pull over and take a picture just for my personal, I don't know, mental stuff. So with that being said, I don't think he did that, but the car had just turned 125,000 miles. Then he goes to work. When he comes outside of work, he sees the window broken, everything torn apart, and then he turns the car on. Luckily it turns on. Luckily he still has the car, but now it's at 245,000 miles. So we're gonna get him straight. So we're gonna figure out exactly how we're gonna reset the mileage. What I'm probably gonna end up having to do, since the cast still has that other mileage stored, we're gonna reset the gauge cluster to the proper mileage, which would be 125,004 at 20 miles for it being driven here. So we're going to be at 125,024, and then we're going to reset the cast mileage to 0. So what will happen is when we turn the car off, turn the car back on, it's automatically going to take the highest mileage from any of the modules and store it into the cast and the DME. What if I just cleared all the errors, right? Let's see if I just turn it back on. What if it automatically just goes back? No, it didn't. It didn't go back. But there is one more spot that I haven't scanned yet, and that is going to be the gauge cluster. I'm going to see if there's anything else on that instrument cluster that shows that mileage, why is it so high? If I'm able to, which I don't think I will be. Yep, so date of last coding session was 5/11/2018, and the current mileage value stored is 394,713. So how did it get to that though? There's nothing on the instrument cluster that has any errors or anything like that. We're not entirely sure how it got that high, especially if that cluster is original, which I'm not sure. The VIN number is correct. So that section is going to remain a mystery, but we're just going to solve the actual problems that it has. Otherwise, we're going to spend the whole day just trying to figure out how it got to 245,000 miles, and we probably still won't figure it out. Top secret operation going down, which will not be shown in the video, because we don't want random people resetting mileage on their E92s saying they got 20,000 miles when it's got 200,000 miles. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? So as I had said before, when the thieves try to get into the car, they actually tore down this whole cover on the bottom. So all of those fasteners just ripped out of the actual dash section. But what I need to do is I need to take out the cast module, I need to remove the cluster, that way we can get that mileage stuff straightened out. So that's what I'm about to do right now. It's pretty straightforward because somebody already ripped out most of this stuff. But just like that, and we have access to the cast module. Instrument cluster just comes out from right here on the top. Just have 2 screws and you're good to go. Bro, as soon as you turn it on, it pops off of the socket. My hands are torn up. This is the kind of shit that makes me want to stop working on cars. Pop off. This thread locked. I thought for sure somebody must have already taken this off before, but nobody's taken the cast module off before, so it is original. The way you could tell is how easy this bolt comes out because they put thread locker on it from factory to make it hard to come out. Look, I tore up all my hands. And voila. All right, so I've got the cluster put back together. As you guys saw, I had everything torn apart. I double checked once I got the mileage corrected. So the mileage we ended up going with was 201,176 kilometers. And I guess the BMW system is a little bit different in calibration as opposed to what I found on Google. So the actual mileage ended up being 124,990. So I tested it, all the mileage is good. The CAS module is just dangling there for right now, so I need to secure that, put all this back together, then we can finally take it on a test drive and see if everything is fixed. All right, so we've got the CAS module put back together. Now let's put this cover back on, and we're ready for the test drive. I wish I could fix this cover, but they actually broke all of the tabs off of the dash. So there's no way that I'm gonna be able to do that. All right, moment of truth. Everything is hooked back up. We've got the CAS module, everything is good. 124,990. All right, so I'm gonna turn it on. Look at that. No warning lights, everything nice and clear, just the windshield washer fluid. All right, I'm gonna pull it out. So I'm test driving it, and I pulled it out about 5 feet, 10, 20 feet out of the shop, and I can already tell you the control arms are shot. Oh, I should have checked if it left any puddles in the actual shop, because if it's not leaking oil, that means they ain't got no oil in it. Oh, that is so bad. Do you feel that? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. That's like my cousin's E90 that we did a while back. The glass is broken, so you probably hear a lot of wind, but just driving it, that front wheel bearing is about to just like fall off. It is so bad. All the gauges are working. The transmission needs a service for sure because it's very clunky, let's just put it that way. And around this mileage, it should have already had 2 services. Probably hasn't had any. And then the control arms are really bad, but that wheel bearing is really, really bad actually. The wheel bearing sounds like it's got an aftermarket exhaust on it. Let's just put it that way. But the gauge cluster, everything's working perfect. There we go, 124,991. We already put a mile on it. And just like that, we saved this guy about $2,000, maybe even more. Because if you would have had to go do all of that stuff as far as getting that mileage reset and all of that at the dealer, they're actually gonna make you buy everything new, right? A new cluster, a new CAS module, and then they'll program everything. It's gonna easily run you about $2,000. So we got all of that stuff sorted. We got the programming fixed on the DXC module, DSC, same thing. And the mileage is working properly now. Everything is good, no more errors, but he still needs to do a lot of work on this car. Like that wheel bearing, the transfer case needs a fluid change, control arms are shot, and let's just not start talking about any of the gaskets that need to be replaced. But for the most part, this car is back on the road now. Once he gets that window replaced, he should be good to back to daily driving until he fixes everything else. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've done this kind of a video in the past before where everybody liked just seeing the thought process, how we go from one step to the next. And I know I didn't show the actual mileage correction side of things. I'm sure you guys understand why. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you need any diagnostic help, go check out my website, www.shoplifetv.com. And I also do offer remote programming services. For example, if your CAS module needs to be replaced, your cluster needs to be replaced, stuff like that. Some of those things you would have to ship them to me, but there is a section on my website that you can request help for that as well, and I can quote you over email. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in the next one.